um, as you all can appreciate, that researching, writing, and talking about justice, it is ridden with contradictions when we are doing this work on universities that are located on stolen lands, as in my case, and also in a time when so many of us are implicated in one way or another in military industrial complexes or ongoing genocides in multiple places. And yet, I feel that it is precisely these contradictions that make it our responsibility to continue grappling with questions of justice. So even though I will be talking with you about my own journey, I want you to also be thinking about it is an invitation for you to be inserting your own grapplings with similar questions wherever you might be and however you might be entering into this listening, this engagement. So I want to take this question of co-building interdisciplinary agitations in search of justice to another connected question, which is at the heart of all of these concerns, which is about epistemic violence and epistemic justice. So how do we learn to be answerable to and answerable for the people and struggles with which we claim to stand? This is a question that has produced a lot of agonies for me, and since 1996 it has played a central role in shaping my relationship with three sites of knowledge making that Dr. Aslam mentioned. One is the Anglophone academia. The other is this Sangathan movement called Sangatin Kisan Mazdoor Sangathan, for which I'll be using the acronym SKMS, which is a movement of farmers and laborers in Uttar Pradesh. And also, I'll be talking about this work through a multi-sited theatre collective called Parak. So I will offer reflections from almost 3 decades of this work to give you a sense of the people, the issues, the contexts, as well as a few key concepts that have emerged in this work. And so I'll start with a story that performs my argument, a story that I have learned to tell and retell as a sathi or a companion of SKMS. और ये कहानी आपको आपने ज़रूर किसी न किसी फॉर्म में सुनी होगी. आई विल रीड इट इन हिंदी, एंड ऐसा हो सकता है कि एक आध ऐसे अल्फाज होंगे जो थोड़े से मुश्किल हो सकते हैं, लेकिन आई फील दैट इट वुड बी बेटर इफ़ आई शेयर इन हिंदी, so that you get more a flavor of the language than me talking, than me presenting in English. So we'll see how this goes. So this is the story of the Navik and the Pandit. तो एक बार अपने आप को बहुत ज्ञानी विद्वान समझने वाले एक आचार्य जी ने वो आचार्य जी नदी पार करने के लिए एक नाव में चढ़े. तो सीधा साधा जो नाविक था उसने उन्हें बहुत आदर के साथ अपनी नैया में बैठाया, और कुछ दूर पहुंचने के बाद आचार्य जी ने नाविक से पूछा, क्यों रे, तू पूंजीवाद के बारे में कुछ जानता है? पूंजीवाद इज कैपिटलिज्म. तो नाविक हाथ जोड़कर बोला, मैं निरा अज्ञानी, मैं क्या जानूं पूंजीवाद. तो ऐसे कुन मगज के साथ जिंदगी जीने से क्या फ़ायदा? तूने तो अपना 1/4 जीवन बर्बाद कर दिया. आचार्य जी शान से पान मसाले की फंकी लगाते हुए बोले. फिर नाव ज़रा और आगे बढ़ी तो आचार्य जी ने फिर से उनको लगा कि मुझे अपना ज्ञान बढ़ाना चाहिए. तो उन्होंने काफ़ी जतलाते हुए पूछा, अच्छा मजदूर आदमी हो, मार्क्सवाद के बारे में तो सुना होगा? कहाँ साहब, हम तो वहू नहीं जानते हैं, ये नाविक ने बोला. तो बोले, धत तेरे की, तब तो तेरा आधा जीवन बर्बाद हो गया. अरे भाई, शादीशुदा हो, नारीवाद तो जानते होगे, फेमिनिज्म इज नारीवाद. आचार्य जी ने चुटकी ली. जब नाविक ने नारीवाद पर भी अपनी अज्ञानता जाहिर की तो आचार्य जी ने बड़ी बेदर्दी से नाविक की 3/4 जिंदगी को बर्बाद घोषित कर दिया। अपनी बर्बादी की इस घोषणा पर नाविक कोई प्रतिक्रिया करता, यानी कोई रिस्पॉन्स देता, इससे पहले ही नैया मझधार में डूबने लगी। इस बार नाविक ने आचार्य से पूछा, पंडित जी आप तो बड़े ज्ञानी हैं, तैरना तो जानते ही होंगे, अब तैरिए। लेकिन आचार्य जी तैरना कहाँ जानते थे। पंडित जी मेरी तो 3/4 जिंदगी ही बेकार गई, लेकिन आपकी तो पूरी की पूरी बर्बाद हो गई। इतना कहते हुए नाविक झट से नदी पार कर गया। तो so this story basically is something, we keep telling it in the Sangathan in different ways, it keeps getting modified, but what is at the heart here is that who becomes the subject of knowledge and who is designated as the Pandit to produce, legitimate and disseminate that knowledge, and what are the implications of this inequality. So these are the questions that we have been raising in the context of the politics of rural development and women's empowerment, and specifically 8 women of Sitapur district in Uttar Pradesh built an alliance with me in 2002, and we began a journey as Sangatin writers. This journey first acquired the form of a book called Sangatin Yatra, which I'll be talking more about that in a bit. And then subsequently it evolved in SKMS, an organization that is now a movement of more than 8,000 farmers and laborers. And it includes both women and men, and about 90% of these members of SKMS are they are Dalit, and many women are in leadership positions. So grappling with the nuances of class, caste, gender, and anti-Muslim violence, SKMS is committed to securing livelihoods, food, water, and health, as well as the rights to information, expression, dignity, and respect for its Sathis. Furthermore, in linking the issue of socio-economic disempowerment of the poor with their intellectual disempowerment, SKMS asks, who determines target populations, issues, and activities for projects of empowerment, and how? Who accounts for these activities and for whom? And how do the coordinators and analysts of these projects, in becoming so-called experts on the disempowered, contribute to maintaining the status quo? So as Sathis go through their own soul searching on these issues, we also explore the connections between intellectual labor and grassroots organizing, and how these connections can be deepened and claimed, and how the realities of socio-political and intellectual hierarchies, as well as the very definitions of who and what constitutes the margins, can be complicated and transformed. So the challenges that are posed by these questions are not about just one specific place or one specific community. They permeate all life. And for me, they have translated into multifaceted and all-consuming engagements with the politics of knowledge and expertise, not only in NGOs or social movements, but also in the realm of theater and art, other art forms, as well as with the ways in which we think and do research, writing, and learning in our universities. So there are many places in which I have documented this work or talked about this work, but I'll be touching briefly on 3 books today, where this work has been, where I focus on this work in great depth. And also, as Dr. Aslam mentioned, since 2017, these engagements have given birth to an online open access journal called Agitate Unsettling Knowledges. I initially co-founded this journal with graduate students, PhD students in different fields at the University of Minnesota, and now they are all in different institutions, and we are continuing this. It's very much a labor of love. It's not really, it's kind of like, it's agitate is and something where we say that we are in the university but not of the university, and we want to make this about search for justice in the realm of knowledge production. So these engagements with knowledge making have required building and sustaining many close relationships across worlds in order to mobilize new collective understandings and frameworks, and translating them into an ongoing praxis that seeks to jar the status quo. And in this praxis, there is a very delicate, it's kind of a non-stop dance where I, we, you, and they are dancing together. The singular and the collective is dancing together. And it opens up the meaning of what we understand a movement to be. So the meaning of the movement includes then political movement, embodied movement in theater and protest, movement of words, gestures, emotions, dreams, movement of vision, movement of creativity, struggles, and how all of this can come together to move the hearts of those who inhabit spaces of formal learning. And so, how might the classroom move out of the university, and how might the excluded learning spaces of people that we see as uneducated, like the Navik who he said, oh, तुम तो बिल्कुल तुमने अपनी जिंदगी बर्बाद कर दी, तुमको कुछ आता नहीं है. तो this kind of like the people who appear in our imagination as the so-called uneducated, how can they emerge in our imagination as those people and their places, how can they emerge in our imagination as profound places of knowledge and meaning making that unsettle hegemonic ideas about what higher learning is? So the reflections that I offer today have emerged from my efforts to do justice to these co-constitutive movements in which I have participated as an alliance worker, as a writer, as an organizer or artist with companions in starkly different worlds. At the heart of this work are three basic questions and three concepts. And as I introduce this slide, I also want to say that in all of this, trust is central to knowledge, to making and receiving knowledges. Because if there's no trust, then basically distrust leads to epistemic violence. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so yeah, so if there's distrust, then there's epistemic violence, because what happens is that a lot of this distrust results from the fact that there are many people and places whose knowledges, whose ways of being, knowing, and living are reduced or outright they're erased as knowledges that don't matter, or even as non-knowledges. And this kind of situation has resulted in a distrust that is at the core of this concern, the kind of violence that I'm talking about addressing. So just some basic questions associated with this work. First question is that, what does it take for scholarship to build long-term and trustworthy partnerships with struggles of the places and people who are designated as the field and thereby relegated to spaces outside the university? For me, this has meant dreaming, writing, building, and performing with village-level NGO workers, with Sathis of SKMS, with migrant workers and migrant actors in Mumbai, with undergraduate and graduate students at the University of Minnesota, where I was for many years, and now since recently at Smith College, where I am now located. And The work has happened organically in multiple languages and multiple forms, in many genres, and it has taken the form of not only concepts, practices, essays, articles, books, journal, etc., but also rallies, slogans, stories, poems, plays, performances, songs. There's also been a newspaper of the Sangathan, and also campaigns. This work has refused the imposed borders that artificially create separations between pedagogy and politics, theory and method, and also that create such discipline. Sometimes we have these disciplined and institutionalized compartments that this is academia, this is activism, this is the arts. So we try to, in this work, we have tried to blur and refuse those compartments. A second question. So how can those who enable experts to make knowledge can also become the key critics, evaluators, and co-authors of that knowledge? So that these people are not just data from whom information is extracted, but that they become our key critics, evaluators, and co-authors. So this is a question on which mainstream scholarship registers a silence. Through my work, however, I have come to live co-authorship as a sharing of authority rather than penning down of words on a page. Such co-authorship far exceeds the production of traditional journal articles, books, and theses or performances. It does not center on achieving a conclusion or perfection in a collaborative journey by a pre-given deadline. It is about the messiness of ongoing journeys where co-travelers take unequal risks, they often pay unequal price, and they also make unequal mistakes as they pursue a collective dream in their search for socio-political, epistemic, and poetic justice. Such co-authorship demands that we rethink and reimagine what we mean by critique, what we mean by theory, and how critique and theory are embodied in practices of writing. And how do we do this in ways that cutting edge knowledge making is no longer seen as a prerogative of certified scholars from elite universities, and so that it does not reenact the violence that it is saying it is trying to oppose. And then a third question, what does it take to then give theoretical and epistemological weight to those critical knowledges whose forms, genres, and languages are consistently discredited in many research universities across the world? If co-authored knowledges are not, could you please turn off your, can you mute yourselves? I'm going to mute this.
Dear participants, we've been requesting times and again to please check if your mics are turned off. Please turn off your mics. You'll be given ample chance to do the, raise your questions during the QA session. Could you please all check if your mics are turned off right now so that we can proceed without any interruption? Thank you. Ji, Professor.
Okay. So if co-authored knowledges are not just data from the field, but a shared responsibility across worlds, then academics must become invested in the poetics and politics of representation so that one can strive continuously to be answerable to and answerable for the struggles with which we say we are standing. Saidiya Hartman talks about some of this in her work, where she says that this kind of work involves embracing the impossible work of listening for what is unsaid, for translating words that have been misconstrued, or lives that have been refashioning lives that have been disfigured. So this kind of work involves many delicate decisions also about how much we tell or not, before whom, when, why, and how. It involves building relationships, practices, processes that can agitate established structures and norms of knowledge making. So, radicalizing co authorship includes writing as praxis, but it is also far more than that. And as you see in this diagram, there are some other concepts that this work of grappling with these questions has yielded, and these concepts are thoroughly entangled. One is situated solidarities, another is radical vulnerability, and one is hungry translations. So in the rest of this talk, I want to embed these concepts in the collaborative journeys from which they have emerged. So to introduce the concept of situated solidarities, I will return to the Sangatins. So Sangatin is an Awadhi word that stands for deep reciprocity and solidarity among women. तो वो औरत जो दूसरी औरत का हाथ थाम कर जिंदगी भर उसके साथ सफ़र करती है. That is what Sangatin really means in Awadhi. So our first book, Sangatin Yatra, or A Journey of Sangatins, emerged from the labor of intense co-authorship undertaken between 2002 and 2004 by 8 women activists and me. And this is a picture from 2004. I'll just introduce my sathis here. In the green sari is Shashi Bala, then there's Shashi, then hidden behind her is Surbala, Ram Sheela, who's smiling. In the blue dupatta is Reshma Ansari, Richa Singh in the green dupatta, in the green kurta, then me, then Anupam Lata, and then Vibha on the other side. So, except for Richa Singh and me, Richa Singh who's in the green kurta, she and me are the only people who are not village level NGO workers. Everybody else was a village level NGO worker who lived in the villages. Richa Singh, the green kurta person, was actually the district coordinator of a women's empowerment program called Mahila Samakhya, in which she and 6 of the others were employed at that time. So they were just volunteering their labors there for a very small honorarium. So I was at that time an associate professor of women's studies at the University of Minnesota. And over the period of 2 years, we spent a lot of time writing together, being together. And this is just one little scene of how the office space of Mahila Samakhya district coordinator's office turned into this kind of a space where we were doing this work, and the children were always with us, and this is the kind of shared labor. So this is a picture from September of 2003. Our alliance raised questions about the ways in which women's empowerment projects tended to maintain the status quo by avoiding caste, religion, and class hierarchies that plagued these structures and dynamics. We critically integrated our I's, U's, and they's to analyze the Savarna and Brahman dominance. This included somebody like me within our own writing group. And we learned to become aware of the fractures that existed within we. So even though we say, oh, humne ye kiya, humne wo kiya, but what are the fractures inside that hum? So this fractured and blended we embraced the idea of situated solidarities as solidarities that must be articulated through a deep embeddedness in the specific textures of place, time, and struggle. We shared pieces of our lives that we had not shared with anyone before. We laughed and wept. We interrogated ourselves and one another. We remembered, we revised. And through this, we argued that the issues, dreams, struggles belong to our society as a whole. They cannot be isolated as women's issues or men's issues, or as issues of one specific community. Similarly, the question of violence against women could not be separated from struggles around caste violence and anti-Muslim violence, or struggles around hunger, water, environment, struggles around dignity and respect. So we asked, how could those who live and make everyday struggle claim their place as experts of their lives and resist the compartmentalization of their struggles into NGO projects. कि अभी ये पानी का मसला है, ये रोजगार का मसला है, ये विमेन औरतों के साथ जो हिंसा हो रही है, ये उसका मसला है. We did not want to separate these issues in that way and see them all as interconnected parts of people's lives, and that's what we mean by not compartmentalizing into NGO projects. So we grappled with the ways in which our co-authored critiques could be mobilized by each one in the Alliance, in our homes, in our multi-generational communities, and in our places, including NGOs and academic sites. So our self-published and self-distributed book in Hindustani and Awadhi, Sangatin Yatra. I say Hindustani because when we use the word Hindustani, we are also complicating this artificial divide between Hindi and Urdu, which you all understand how it works. So Hindustani is just one of those choices. So the book was in Hindustani and Awadhi, and this was called Sangatin Yatra, and it sparked a major debate on the limits of NGO-driven empowerment. And we were not presenting a critique of NGO-driven empowerment as an external critique, but we were presenting it as an internal or an intense collective reflection from within. And here is the cover of Sangatin Yatra. We all designed it together. Everything about this book was done by us ourselves. So whereas the truths in this book about gendered violence that the authors lived in the intimacy of their homes and villages were readily accepted by the feminist NGO in which the authors were working, our critique of how the politics of skills and structures of women's NGOs turned the village level mobilizers into maids of feminist madams who were running these organizations, that produced a ruckus. So everything is like, it's okay for you to critique your men, your husbands, your fathers, but don't talk about the divisions inside, the way that elitism is working inside the NGOs. That was the main problem that some of the people who were high up in the organization had. And so that produced a massive ruckus and an attack on the authors by the NGO, in which 7 out of 9 authors were employed. So I want to give you a flavor of the critique. And again, instead of sharing it in English, let me share it in Hindi. But I want to say that there was the English version, Playing with Fire, which came out in South Asia by Zuban Books and also then University of Minnesota Press. It had both the translation. I translated the Hindi book into English, but also there was an analysis of the attack that happened on the authors and how we fought the attack. So, but I'll be reading from the original Hindi book, the last paragraphs of the book. So, again, there might be 1 or 2 words that you might find difficult, but you should be able to understand all of it very, as your own tongue. और अंत में, आज से ठीक 1 बरस पहले पूस की गुनगुनी धूप में 9 लेखनियों ने जब कागज़ों पर अपनी नोक से पहली बार नए अल्फाज उतारने और उन्हें इबारत में बदलने शुरू किए थे, तब हमारी आँखों में नमी थी और दिलों में एक दर्द और बेचैनी. कभी सोचा भी नहीं था कि अपनी अम्माओं, बाबुओं और दादियों के आंसू, डांट और मार को याद करते समझते हम एक दिन रोजी रोटी और आंदोलन के बीच भेद भी करने लगेंगे. पर आज हम ये अच्छी तरह जानते हैं कि अपने निजी जीवन की दास्तानों को आजू बाजू रख कर नई नज़रों से देखने के बाद ही हम उस मकाम पर पहुंच पाए जहां से हम अपने काम में फैली गैर बराबरी का ईमानदारी से अवलोकन कर पा रहे हैं. यानी अगर हम साथ साथ ये समझ नहीं बना पाते कि गरिमा और राधा के बचपन की भूख में क्या फ़र्क है, तो शायद ये भी नहीं देख पाते कि दलित और शोषित औरतों के हकों के लिए काम करने वाले हमारे ही संगठनों की कुल बागडोर किस तरह से सवर्णों के हाथों में पहुंच जाती है। और अगर छुआछूत और पर्दे को लेकर अपने ही दिलों और घरों में बिराजे दोहरेपन से हम नहीं जूझे होते तो कहाँ से लाते एनजीओ की दुनिया की दिग्गज हस्तियों और पढ़े लिखे लोगों के काम में बैठे दोहरेपन पर सवाल उठाने की नज़र और जज्बा। लेखनी यानी कलम से आंसुओं तक की हमारी मजबूत हिस्सेदारी ही हमारी ताकत बनकर आज हमें आंसुओं से सपनों तक खींच लाई है। इन सपनों में नए आकार और नए रंगों के साथ अगर नई उमंगें समाई हुई हैं तो नए उलझाव, खतरे और डर भी हैं। इसका हमें एहसास है। और ये भी कि सृजन यानी क्रिएटिविटी के हमारे इस सफ़र ने हमें एक बंद मुट्ठी तो बना ही दिया है। उम्मीद यही है कि ये मुट्ठी लगातार और मजबूत होती चलेगी और हमें अपनी जैसी और मुट्ठियों का साथ और बल ताकत मिलती चलेगी। तभी तो हम एक ऐसी दुनिया बना सकेंगे जहां हमारे जैसे छोटे छोटे समूह भी आम लोगों के साथ मिलजुल कर उनकी खुशहाली के लिए बड़े बड़े सपने देखने का हौसला रखते हों, अपनी ही शर्तों पर, अपनी ही सोच के बूते और अपनी ही ज़बान में। So, so I hope that you can feel what is happening in this fragment is that there's a power in becoming vulnerable together. When I said fractured and blended we, how do we not invoke a hum or a we as this monolith, and how we also show the fractures inside that we. So that is what is happening through a kind of vulnerability that the text embraces. And there's also I hope you can get a sense of a poetics and politics of writing that is grounded in the specificities of place, time, and struggle. So not some grand idea, ungrounded idea of solidarity, but something that is grounded in this and how that is reflected in the writing itself, and also how the telling and the writing is inseparable from theorizing, organizing, dreaming, and doing. So the writing also imagines itself as an intervention. It sees itself as an intervention that is an ongoing journey rather than a destination. ये नहीं कि अब सफर खत्म हो गया, ये कि ये एक ऐसा सफर है जो जिंदगी भर चलता रहेगा. तो in that sense, the journey is always ongoing. So when we penned the dream of becoming this many fists और मुट्ठियां हम बनते चले जाएं, at that time we had no idea that there would be an attack on the book because of our critique of NGOs or NGOization. But because the words in the book had emerged alongside strong friendships and we had shared a lot of tears together, we were able to fight the attack across continents and oceans. The fight birthed SKMS so that the people in the villages of Sitapur district who were most marginalized by the systems of power could continue to advance the work of defining development, empowerment, knowledge, and justice on their own terms. And here is this one photo from 2012, just to give you a sense of how the organization kept expanding.